My name is Stephen Seewoester, and I'm a retired public relations person. And my wife and a number of my friends suggested I find something to do so I didn't drive them or myself crazy. So I decided to become a master gardener. Mainly what we are is an education group. We go to, say, schools and churches who want to start gardens, and we help them plan and explain what are the best ways to grow, what are the best things to grow. I am not someone who has a, quote, fancy garden like you'd see in Better Homes and Gardens. I like to experiment with things. Every year I like to stumble upon maybe something new, or you meet another gardener that has had some luck with either a new plant or new technique. One day I was at a local store, and I saw that they were marked down some of their trees. One was a fig tree, and I thought, well, let me give it a try. And I picked it up, so I planted it, and it has done very well. It is one of the larger ones you will see in a suburban neighborhood. Now my daughter she's married a hunter, so she cooks for us every Monday to help put together her own food blog, and it's called lauraswildkitchen.com. I provide the vegetables from my garden, and so it becomes a little bit of a family affair. I think gardening is a great activity. It does get you outdoors. You find a bond with people because most people eat, and most people have something from a garden that they like. In particular, a tomato. There is no tomato like one that you have grown in your yard compared to one that you get at a local grocery store. A lot of people my age remember from their childhood when their mothers or grandparents would grow. It's a challenge, but it's very, very rewarding. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I've met some of you before, some I haven't. I'm usually known, somebody will bump into me and say, "You're the fig guy, aren't you?" Yeah, because I am the fig guy. And that fig tree did freeze all the way to the ground a few years back. And I thought, well, let's see what happens. I'll learn about figs this way. Well, now, out where the limbs were on the edges of the tree previously, they now have rooted. And so it's a series of bushes that are almost that size again. So this year last year we did 50 pounds. And it's 3 weeks, around the 4th of July, which means all our friends and relatives know never to come to our house, because at 6:30 in the morning I'm picking them, and then my wife and I are processing them. But yeah, we used to get over 300 pounds in 3 weeks, so that's a whole nother life. And so as a volunteer here, I do mostly speeches, mostly talk to people about new gardens, spring, fall. Do have some vegetable, herb, composting presentations I make. But here's what we're going to go over today, quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about the history and the medical uses you can see in the varieties, which is really an important part of this, is having the right variety for what you're going to do. And, you know, how many people say, oh, I'm going to have an herb garden, and they go out and they buy an herb. Oh, that looks really nice. They put it in the ground, and then it's like, what do I do with it? I mean, it looks nice, but what do you really do with it? That's kind of how I was with the basil. It smelled beautifully, and we liked it, so that intrigued me, and so I got into something very dangerous, pesto. We'll talk about what it is, how to make, and probably more importantly, the recipes. So let's talk a little bit about the history of basil. Now, it's funny, I made this presentation, put it together 2 or 3 years ago, and this morning I had a thought. I wonder if I just put in history of basil in Google, what's going to come up? And you know what? There were a whole bunch of king of basil websites. So there are other herbs that claim to be the king of herbs. So it's all in the eye of the beholder. So, but actually, the word basil comes from the Greek meaning word of king, And it's supposed to have grown at the spot where St. Constantine and Helen discovered the Holy Cross. Now, the Oxford English Dictionary, which is, I'm sure, something that you go to all the time now. If you don't know anything, you pull out your old note, you go to Google. And so Google is really taken over for the Oxford English Dictionary. But it is still considered the king of herbs by many. Seems to be that it was native mainly to India. They used it, it smells really nice, and I guess it gets people's attention. And they used to put their hand on it and be sworn in. And in Italy, of course, Italians have a different lifestyle from that. It's kind of a love thing. They show their love by wearing a sprig of basil on your coat or your dress. And in Mexico, people keep it in their pocket, hoping that the man or woman they love would never return their love forever, Now, the last one I have on here is we were in Romania for a month right after we retired, and I heard this down there. It used to be used, this is how you wanted to be engaged. You didn't get down on your knee, you handed her some basil. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, although I don't have any proof of that. So anyway, to get it more complete, we talk about all these plants, but I thought, well, let's talk a little bit about the medical uses. There's the historical, the current, and I am not a qualified doctor to endorse any of these things. These are just some things, a lot of old wives' tales on different kinds of herbal concoctions to help with different kinds of ailments. So historically, you can see China, they say it helped with stomach, kidney, and blood ailments. Let's see. I probably use ginger instead of that, but anyway. In Europe, treats cold, warts, and intestinal worms. And as you can see, in India and Malaysia, it also has other things. Now, again, it says soothes the stomach, and since we've got that in two different places, it gives a little more legitimacy, according to me anyway. But if you want to get into the details, if you ask your doctor, it contains polyphenolic flavonoids, I said that right, antioxidants that prevent cell damage, and with the smell, you have all of these things, eugenol, citronellol, linalool, lithotrol, those are all the smelly things that, sometimes people say some smelly, like lavender and some of those things, it kind of relaxes you if you smell that. It changes your what you're thinking about. I didn't know this, but it contains high beta-carotene, which of course is good for your eyes, along with these other things that I can't vouch for, but I know lutein and zeaxanthin are also good for eyes. That's something that this has in it. And it's an excellent source of iron, which is not anything I would have ever thought of from the lowly basil. Now, we talk about basil, people just say basil. That's, it's kind of like you go out and you want to get a tomato. How many different kinds of tomato varieties are there? You can't even keep up with the hundreds of them. Normally, and I have one over here, the shorter one, normally you'll see something called sweet basil. And that's kind of a standard, but sometimes that just kind of means they don't know what else to call it. So sweet basil is something people are used to getting. So we can break it out a little bit more. There's different kinds. African has a purple streak leaves. Cinnamon. Now cinnamon's I really like cinnamon, and I was at some event, I don't even remember where or when, but they served up a cinnamon sorbet. It was fabulous. I don't know how you make it. I'm sure you have to put maybe some cinnamon along with the basil, but it was absolutely delicious. And then the one that we're going to focus mostly on here is Genovese. And the reason we're going to focus on that is, like a lot of people, I got some herbs, put them in the ground. Okay, we got this basil plant. What do we do with it? Well, my wife and I and some friends, we traveled to Italy, to Genoa. Genoa is where pesto really is supposedly from, originally developed. And we were staying at this Airbnb, and it was a kind of what I would have called a grandmother type and her son who had this place. And what was really cool is in the backyard, they had a beautiful olive garden and lots of vegetables and herbs. And so we had a little time to spend there. So me and the young gentleman, we went outside. He didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak a word of Italian. We were out there for 2.5 hours, and we had no problem communicating. And he kept talking about different plants, and I was trying to get information about olive trees since I know nothing about olive trees. But anyway, we had a nice time. But in the meantime, my wife was doing a more important thing. We're both journalism majors, so investigative reporter types. Well, she was investigating with Grandma. She wanted the recipe that is used in Genoa where this all started. And so she learned a lot about it. And so I've learned a little bit about it. We'll talk about some of those recipes a bit later. But the leaves tend to be a little bit larger than the sweet basil, but when you touch them, if you come up and touch the one, feels nice. The other one, you can feel how much thicker it is. And that's probably, there's more oil or something in there. So Genovese, I would highly recommend. Doesn't mean you can't make pesto with anything, any herb. You can make all kinds of things as a pesto. But we use it fresh, we use it frozen, and it's what I exclusively use when I make pesto. And when we're in the middle of the summer, we make a lot of pesto, we freeze it, and every time, if you invite us over for dinner sometime, we always bring a little gift of pesto with us. That's become our thing, and of course, now people who invite us again, they're standing at the front door with the empty jar that we gave them the first time, wanting to get it refilled. So we do have to. COVID really hurt us during that. It really did. And then the freeze really ended that. Also, some people talk about sacred basil, and it has a more clove scent to it. And a lot of people use it as a garnish or in herbal teas, because you can use basil as a tea also. You might want to mix it with other herbs. And then here's another one. It's Italian large or lettuce leaf, or I found out in Italy it's called Napolitano out of Naples. These are extremely large basil leaves. And you'd think, oh, that sounds really good. Well, to tell you the truth, when you're making pesto, it's a little harder to deal with. However, I am a great lover of BLTs. You know what a BLT is, right? Better. I like BBTs. So instead of lettuce, I use the big leaves as lettuce on that sandwich. Then I started, when we had plenty of it, I would use it on all my sandwiches because it just has a flavor. Lettuce doesn't usually have that strong of a flavor, but it adds a nice little punch to your sandwich. Anyway, there's some other common types. Lemon. I've seen lime too. Lime didn't really catch my attention. It just didn't seem very limey. But the lemon is. That's a nice one. And we use it a lot of times. You cut it up and you sprinkle it on fish or chicken, or you can add it to soups, salads, and desserts. And then here's another one. I've not seen this anywhere, but they call it a mammoth, which I'm sure is like those other large leaf or the Napolitano. And again, we use them on sandwiches, or you can use them mixed in your regular salad. Okay, and then there's one called red Reuben. It's an improved form of the dark opal that we talked about with the largest leaves of purple basils. I haven't really found the flavor is as strong in the purple basils or as distinctive to me, but to each their own. Now, we get into one we're starting to get a little different. There's a touch of Asia here in the Siam Queen. Have any of you seen some of these Thai basils or Siam Queen? They are very distinctive, but it makes a fabulous pesto, although the ingredients will change, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Another one is the spicy globe. That's one I see. It's usually for smaller places, window boxes, They grow just about 10 inches tall with small leaves, and that would be really difficult making pesto. You'd have to tear all those little bitty leaves on there. You want something that's a little easier to do. And then thanks to my friend, I don't know, is Cynthia here today? Cynthia Jones, is she here today? Last year, right before the garden tour that I was going to be working on, when I came that first day, she handed me a cardinal basil plant. I'd never heard of it. It's not in any of the literature that I've ever researched, so it must be something new. And the thing that I've found distinctive about it is, as you see over there, I have little blossoms that you do pinch off, because if you pinch it off, it makes the oil go in there. Once you leave those, your basil could be bitter and everything, so you want to keep those clean. The cardinal basil doesn't have those on it. Instead, it has a rough, I don't know how to describe it, like a tough, it's a flower like this. It's not a flower that you typically think of. It's gorgeous. It's just kind of a dark purple that's on the top of the plant. You don't have to pinch them. Now, I can't vouch for making pesto with it yet. That will be happening later this year as I get some cardinal basil together to see if I like it. But it's something I'm seeing, at least seeds. I still haven't seen many places you can get the plant. Okay, the basics of growing basil. I mean, we're all gardeners here. Basil's pretty easy. You have to have a place that has good drainage, because it does not like wet feet, as we say. And you can always tell, because it'll start to turn a little yellow if you have too much water in there. But it is important to choose a location with good sun. And part of that, you have to know, it's like any plant, you have to know what is the best time to plant, what do the plants like, do not like. Basil does not like cool weather. Cold, freeze, you're out of luck. So it's usually one of the last things, unless I started a little greenhouse earlier. It's something you put in, usually you don't think about it till mid-April or beyond. It's very easy to grow. The seeds are minuscule, so you got to be careful. Otherwise, I did this the other day with some more Genovese, and I have a lot of plants in one little spot there. It's going to be very tedious separating all those stems out, but they do like, and I think most herbs liked morning sun. My herbs seem to do better when it has the morning sun, and then if something shades it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, particularly in the brutal summer, it certainly seems to like that. And if you're not giving it enough water, the basil will tell you very quickly. You'll see the leaves start to shrivel. Luckily, as long as you put water on it pretty quickly, it'll come back pretty quickly. So it's very good with that. But you do have to watch, make sure it has good drainage, good sun, and make sure you water it. Of course, then the big decision for all of us gardeners, springtime, seeds or plants. Which way am I going to go? You can go either way. It works both ways on most plants. Seeds take longer. They're less expensive. Plants, more immediate. And you can really tailor the timing that way if they're available. And if you want to try it yourself, why don't you try some seeds? I start seeds. My first day of gardening is usually Super Bowl Sunday. I can remember Super Bowl Sunday. And that's when I start most of my gardening activities. So if I was going to start basil inside in a place that's going to be warm with a grow light, that works fine. And then I can plant them out in May, and in no time, or in late April, I'll have plenty of plants for my pesto needs. If you choose on growing a basil plant, the one thing I've noticed about someone taught me this a long time ago, and I don't know if it's official or not, but they said don't ever fertilize your herbs. Because if you don't fertilize your herbs, it will make them make more of the oils that are in the plant. I don't have any research on that, but so I don't usually put a bunch of fertilizer near my herb plants, just because they seem to do fine without it, to be honest. They like to be a little stressed there. Okay, where would you buy, you know where you can buy basil seeds. Where would you buy basil plants? Walmart? Lowe's, some of the grocery stores, all that. Trader Joe's, folks. Trader Joe's is the perfect place, and the reason is they'll give you a nice piece for no more than $2.50. And the way how do I choose what to get out of all of those that are sitting there? I pick them up. I look in the underneath and see how many stems are there. I can average 6 to 8. This year I broke my record. I got 9 basil plants. That sweet one there is number 9 that I got out of one little bitty pot that I bought for $2.50 instead of paying how much at other places. So even if you buy them at other places, one thing you may want to always look for is how many stems are in there. And as long as you're really carefully, I got 9 out of a small one and separated it out. And it takes a couple of days for it to show a little life. Don't want to put it in the heavy sun right away. And so Trader Joe's, you can also get them probably at other stores, grocery stores, also have those sometimes. I count the number of stems in there because I've had good luck with that. Now the bad part of that is they gave me sweet basils. In past years they had Genovese, but this time it was sweet. But anyway, that's just something to think about when you're buying particularly herbs. Like I said, you got to wait till the temperature is right, and then once it starts growing, the one on your left over there, it's getting to the point where it's time to do some pinching off those white flowers on the top. And whenever you pinch, then you're going to have 2 stems that are going to come out of that. And so that plant is going to get very heavy. Sometimes I have to stake it up a little because they can get very heavy. But when I'm using it for pesto, I use a lot of basil at one time, so that's not necessarily a problem. But yeah, I had 1 or 2 plants. Now we're talking about 1 or 2 dozen plants, and it's been kind of fun. But make sure you get those flowers off of there because it will help that basil leaf to have it be much tastier. Now also, can you have them indoors? Absolutely you can. I'd say if you have a maybe a windowsill that gets a lot of bright light, they're really easy to grow inside. I don't think they do as well and get as large as like when you have them out in the sun all the time. But if you want to do it during an off season, or for instance, let's say you go out and you cut off a limb there and it's like it's got too much of them. You cut too many stems. Very easy. You just get a little cup of water and you strip the bottom of it, you stick it in there, and it won't be long all. You're going to have roots, all kinds of roots. And then you can plant that or plant indoors or outdoors. So they're very, very easy to deal with. Now, we also already mentioned they're sensitive to cold. It does, in these parts, it does act as an annual. However, you'll see when they start to go to seed, you'll see these little black, tiny, tiny seeds. And let some of those drop into the soil. Sometimes if you're careful and watch it carefully, you may get some volunteers for next year. But I always keep some of those seeds, but seeds are not that expensive. I usually go out and get fresh seeds every year. So indoors are best in a pot on a sunny windowsill and keep away from cold drafts. As I told you before, that's where I start my basil in the greenhouse in February, but they're protected from the cold weather. And they do grow under fluorescent lights. In Texas, it thrives outdoors, but when temperatures reach freezing, it's over. It is over. So if you even think it's going to freeze, you might want to cut it. You maybe even want to repot it indoors, or you want to go ahead and use the leaves. It's really best to pinch those off before the flowers are in full bloom, because again, it's going to concentrate more of those oils in the leaf. So that's something I do whenever I go out. I just kind of looking at my garden. I'm always doing like this, pinching. I'm hoping this cardinal works well because I didn't have to pinch anything on the cardinal plant. So that's something to be looking for. Here are some lessons that I learned from growing basil. I told you what inspired me a little bit, our trip to Italy. One thing, dried basil. I don't dry it. To me, it doesn't taste like any. It certainly doesn't taste like it does when it's picked fresh. It just doesn't do it for me. So I've learned how to freeze basil in ice cubes. You can do the old style ice cubes, not the automatic ice cubes that are made by your freezer, but you get one of those and then you cut the leaves real little and you put them in, and then I just pour a little oil over them, put them in the freezer, let them freeze, pull them out, break them, let them all fall into a freezer bag and put them in there, and then I have them all through the winter. So you can throw them in your soups, a lot of your cooking. That has done very well. It does much better. I've just never had a dry basil leaf that just tasted like I'm eating grass, as they say. Again, we talked about Genovese seems to be the best variety to use for pesto. We talked about the best place to get plants. Pick off those flowers, and the best time to use basil is after you pick and cut fresh. Don't cut it and then let it sit for a while. It's just not going to be as good. So I would use it very, very quickly. Extra cuts you place on a glass of water on the windowsill. You use basil leaves as lettuce on sandwiches. And is it basil or basil? If you listen to English speakers from England, they call it basil instead of basil. So now, the second part of this is, okay, so I have this great pesto or this great basil plant. Now what am I going to do with it? Well, I've learned about pesto. I didn't know much about this until I went to Italy. I had heard of it, and I kind of knew what it was, but I didn't know how good it really could be. So it means Italian sauce, and Genoa is, when you're looking at Italy, it's up in the northern part, right where the turn is in the Mediterranean, and Genoa is up in there. And the traditional pesto is pretty easy. Basil, salt, pine nuts, extra virgin olive oil, and Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, okay? Now, you can do variations on all of these. The basil is pretty much the same. Garlic, how much do you like? How much do you don't like? You kind of have to decide that by trying it and tasting it. Salt, pine nuts. So, I'll go to Italy and find out about pine nuts. So I went over to, I guess it was Costco that had, at that time, that had some pine nuts. And, it was a nice little bag, and I want to say it was $10 or $12. Do you know how much that is now? It's like $30 for pine nuts. So pine nuts are good. I would at least try it once to see how you like it, but you can substitute some other nuts. We'll talk about that in a minute. Extra virgin olive oil, that's a given. You want to use extra virgin olive oil. We like the Spanish stuff because a lot of it has a little bit more of a bite to it that we like, but you can use any kind. And then there's the Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. Parmesan cheese is what most of us call it. There are other hard cheeses that you can use, and it isn't always cheap. So my rule is, if I'm going to make the pesto and I'm going to eat it right away and cook it or do something like that, I go ahead and get the Parmigiano and go ahead and grate it into the pesto. However, a lot of times I'll make it ahead of time, so when you serve it, you've served it on the plate, then I do another little Parmesan thing right when you're going to eat it. That really helps. And then there's that, there's that Parmesan that I'm used to, in the green cylinder, the Kraft or the store brand or whatever. Do you ever use that? Well, when I'm freezing a whole bunch of pesto, yes, I use that when I'm going to freeze it. And then when I use it, again, I put plenty of the grated on the side. That's just something you have to think about, because that's a lot of grating to get all of that cheese into that pesto. It says it's stored in the refrigerator up to around 4 weeks. After that, but you do need to keep it refrigerated. Okay, and then we also decided we liked the containers that seemed to be the right amount for us. You remember the margarines that come in these round things about so large? There were green ones. I forget what the brand is, but the green ones, perfect. So we started using that margarine just so we would have the right container, so we knew what was in there. Although I always do, right on the bottom of there, I write what it is and the date on it, because it's easy to forget. So I do always do that. So I'll show you a recipe in a minute, classic pesto, and also we make something including a sun-dried tomato pesto and an Asian pesto, which I really like for different reasons. Again, they can be stored and frozen just like the other ones. So here's classic pesto. You may want to if you want to take a picture, that'll be it there. Now, you know what a blender used to look like? What's the brand I'm thinking of? The big tall one, skinny and tall, Osterizer. We have an Osterizer. I can pour 1 cup of olive oil on there. It's marked at 1 cup. Then what I do is I put in 1/2 cup of pine nuts, or you can substitute walnuts and pistachios, 8 cloves of garlic, up or down, and of course it depends on the size of the cloves. You have to make that determination. So once you have those 2 things in the olive oil, I go ahead and pulverize that so it's all a nice little smooth paste, starting to be a paste in there. And then I put in 2 cups of packed basil, at least. And for me, that means reaching in, squeezing. There's 1. Then I go ahead and pulverize it a little bit until it starts to break down. Then I put the second one in. Again, I hit it like that. And then when it's blended into a paste, you stir in 1 cup of Parmesan or Romano, Pecorino, whatever you do for your cheese. I usually put part of it in first, stir it, and then do not pulverize that. Go ahead and just stir it in. And then you can put it in a container to refrigerate 2 to 4 weeks. And then also if you want to put them in ice cube trays. So anybody have any? This is actually, these are my pictures. That's my pesto that we made. So that's what it should look like. It'll be really thick. So you pour it all out and you think, oh boy, I've got a mess here in this blender thing. How am I going to get all of this out of here? I found the perfect way to clean that up to your benefit. Do you remember your cruets that you made salad dressing with? Remember those with the oil and all that? Go find that in the back of the cabinet somewhere. Fill it up, pour it in, put the top on, pulverize it. It cleans it, and now you have a whole cruet of pesto salad dressing. So you're not wasting anything, and sometimes I actually leave a little more in there than I would normally do it, but that's one way. You're making your pesto and you're making your salad dressing. So that's one way we use it. Oh, so we have this pesto, and we have our little grandchildren there. Pesto? Do they care about pesto? Oh no. They like scrambled eggs. So they've heard of green eggs and ham. They've got the book. So we make green eggs and ham with pesto in it. It's fabulous. Just put some of the sauce in there when you're scrambling up those eggs. Turns a nice little color of green. Also, our go-to leftover meal when we've got pesto in the refrigerator and we've had maybe a whole roasted chicken, we have half the chicken left. We like to take a little leftover chicken, we get some mushrooms and some onions, and we go ahead and get those all stir-fried up, and we put in the pesto, and then we use bow tie, the little bow tie. The reason we like the bow tie is because it has more things for the pesto to grab onto. You can use any kind of a noodle, but it seems to stick better in the more complicated noodles. So I would highly recommend that. It's called, farfel, the bow ties. So my wife says to remember to tell you to put 2 ladles of pasta water into the large bowl, then add the 2 teaspoons of pesto and stir. She says that helps with it sticking to the pasta. So then we put in pasta, onions, mushrooms, meat, and there we use grated fresh Parmesan. Another thing is you can have pesto spread that's in your house, and let's say you're going to make a ham and cheese sandwich. Instead of putting something else on there as a spread, the pesto is great, just like that. Just spread it on there and eat it. So we found other ways to use the pesto, because when we first did it, we made all this pesto, and it was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? So we found it's kind of a learning thing, as it is with most. Okay, now we're going to get into some other basil pestos. First, let's talk about Asian pesto. That's my youngest daughter's. Her favorite is the Asian pesto. In this one, I use garlic, and then I used cashews for the nuts. It's really smooth. It's really creamy. It's nice. I put in equal parts of cilantro and Thai basil, and then I use either peanut oil or grapeseed oil. And then I put a little touch of fresh cayenne pepper to give it a little bit of a kick. Now, you'll notice no cheese. Doesn't fit in with the Asian recipes. It's very good. It's very different. You might want to, there's different kinds of the Thai basil. There's the spicy Thai, I can't remember all the names of them, but there's several of them. You may want to try those. But that's a different plant when you go ahead and plant it, because it has much smaller leaves. So you're going to have to really get a lot more, but we're cutting it halfway with cilantro. So that's very good. You know, we put it over a stir fry. We just mix it into the stir fry, and it's something a little different. Then there's sun-dried tomato pesto. This is my oldest daughter's favorite. And in this one, we put in the garlic cloves, and we substitute a half a cup of pistachios or walnuts. I like the pistachios because they have a saltiness in them that you don't have to add salt to this. Really works well. And then you put in a cup of basil leaves, and you'll notice I've cut back on the to a half cup of olive oil, because a lot of times your sun-dried tomatoes are packed in some kind of an oil, so there's going to be some oil added there, so you have to play with that amount. And again, grated Parmesan cheese, salt, and ground pepper. I made this for the first time, and it was really different. It was really, really delicious, particularly when you use those pistachios in there. And I liked it so much, I took it to work one day, and I was telling my coworkers, here's my latest pesto and everything. My boss ate, he took a spoon and just like this. You should have seen him light up. And my coworkers were very upset with me because I always got the best recommendation every year at the end of the year. He loved the stuff, so anytime there was a holiday, I got him. But he would eat it by the spoon, just like that, which I don't recommend necessarily, but became a little extra that I wasn't counting on. This third one over here is one I've seen before. I've never tried this, but I thought I'd throw it in because it's another kind of nut. A lot of people like almonds, so it does the same thing, only they add some cherry tomatoes into it, so it's a different kind of a sauce. But that's what you can do with pestos. You can take any herb, and you could substitute different herbs in this same recipe, and you might get something. So it's kind of fun to play with it. And then we can it sometimes, and we freeze it sometimes. So it just depends on what we're doing. It's pretty much the same. You combine the dry ingredients, pulverize them first, then put in the basil half at a time until it gets to that nice paste consistency, and then you go ahead and store it or use it right away, whichever works best for you. Okay, so here. Did anybody notice the license plate in the parking lot? Yes. I tried to get basil. It was taken. So I just put in pesto, just thought, well, let's see what happens. Guess what? It's not available till I don't drive anymore. I renew it every year. It's my favorite little license plate. So we talked about you mix the pesto ingredients first, you add cheese after you've processed. We've talked about the difference, Parmesan, fresh grated, store grated, or a combination. Garlic, how many people, does everybody grow their garlic here? If you don't, you're missing something. It is when people come up to me at a speech and say, you know, I kill everything that I plant in the ground, what do you recommend? And I say garlic. Very simple. Wherever you buy your garlic, we went to the garlic capital of, it's out in California. I forget the name. Gilroy. We went there. We were going to pass through there, and I said, hey, we got to stop. There's a big garlic store there, and there was obviously the lady who had started this store years before. And I walked up and I said, and they have garlic everywhere, obviously growing, and I said, well, where do you get your garlic to plant? And she goes, oh, you mean our garlic seeds? And I said, garlic seeds? And she goes, sorry, I always check. If you're asking for garlic seeds, I know you're not a gardener or a cook. So she was testing me. And anyway, she said, to tell you the truth, we don't sell a bunch of stuff here. Wherever you buy your garlic, go to a grocery store and buy it. It's just fine. So I'm passing that along. This was from the garlic capital of, at least of California, if not the country. So anyway, you just go and get your cloves. So anyway, go to the store October. Start in early October, go to the store. Remember, each one of those heads is going to have, 6 to 8 cloves? That's going to turn into 6 or 8 heads when you're going. I have a kind of a raised garden in my backyard. It's concrete blocks. They used to call them cinder blocks. And so that's where I stick them. I just stick my finger in, put in the clove, and make sure the little root is to the bottom, cover it up. If it's dry, you give them a little water, and I let fall, winter, and early spring take care of everything. I pull them in May or June. I've already tried the first one here. It still needs another month. So I normally will do 60 or 80 heads is what I'll get in a year. And really, it doesn't cost that much, considering each clove. So that's what I would recommend on that. It's too easy. It's also, if you don't have a good place to plant it on the edge of your whatever garden that you have, around a flower garden. Because in the winter, all you're going to see is the little spike, and it doesn't kill any animals, but it discourages, because I know rodents don't like the garlic smell. Too bad for them, but anyway. So that's a little hint that I use. I've used them around my bed, and it just does it. From October to May or June, it's taking care of business. And then we talked about pine nuts versus pistachios versus almonds versus walnuts. I can tell you all day, just try them. Try what your favorite is. I still like the pine nuts, the original one. I do love the pistachios when I do the sun-dried tomato. And I like the walnuts when the pine nuts get too high. They're very good too. Always garnish with fresh grated Parmesan before serving. Extra use, make your own pesto salad dressing. You can store it fresh in the refrigerator, but freezing is best for long term. And try different herb combinations of pesto. Usually, as I'm sure you all have lots of ideas where you could use this in fresh cooked recipes. As far as, let's say you pick too much, but you're going to use them in a day or two. We have tried putting them in a plastic bag and put them in the refrigerator, and sometimes they'll be fine as long as they don't dry out. So that's something you can do. We've talked about the varieties. Chinese Asian food also uses fresh or dried basils in their soups and other foods. So we do add those things. I call it the Vietnamese. You can call it Thai basil, whatever you want to call it, but it's different. It's really nice. It was a real surprise. Okay, it says here, Thai basil is commonly steeped in ice cream or milk to create an interesting flavor. Okay, somebody tried to serve me a regular basil ice cream. I didn't go home and make any. The cinnamon one that I use in a sorbet was really tasty to me, but that one didn't do anything for me. You can also, it's also, when you have a fruit bowl, it's a nice thing to take the leaves off after they're clean and put them in there. It gives it a nice fragrance. You can eat them, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you to eat them. And here it says the flat-leafed basil used in Vietnamese or Asian cooking is really more suitable than the thick, heavy ones that we have here. Okay, here's a few unusual ways to use basil. You can make a basil tea. Some people use that, and they use it to treat stomach problems. I think ginger works better, but that's just me. Then, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't lay any claim to this. Some people say it helps to prevent cancer. I think you can say that about almost any natural food that you eat, that it can help you in a lot of little ways maybe we don't even know. Homemade pasta. My wife, when she makes homemade pasta, she usually doesn't, but if she does, she puts it right into the dough, and the pesto into the dough, and that's a nice, something a little different. It looks really cool, that's for sure. Now, this one, yeah, I could never get any of my daughters to put basil leaves on their acne and go to school. I don't know if that works or not. We talked about ice cubes. We've talked about putting it in salad sandwiches. This is a good one, heart health. Basil is a good source of magnesium. Who knew? So that's another way to do it. Now here's the ice cream they recommended. Take 2 bananas, peel them, chop them, freeze them. Then they're half frozen. Then go ahead and break them up and place the pieces along with a handful of fresh basil leaves into a food processor. Might want to add a little sweetener or honey to that. Just something unusual. These are things that I've heard as I've been giving this. Here's you all know about, if you're looking for information, you know where the good websites are. Here are some that I have used, that I have liked. I also have a few books over here. I have the Herb Lover's Guide. I have the Pesto Cookbook. These are not easy books to find. They all were found in half-price books, not at a new bookstore anywhere. So that's another suggestion for me. And so that's all I have. Do we have questions? Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you again, Stephen. That was a great presentation. Next up, give her just a second to get her microphone on. We have a new urban horticultural extension agent in Dallas County. So in addition to having Crystal, who's been very helpful over the last year since Catalina's moved out here to the agri facility, now we also have Ann Lisen. And Ann, would you like to come up and just introduce yourself and let you know a little bit about you?
Well, hello. Like he said, my name is Ann Lisen, and I have been in the horticulture industry my whole life. Okay, I was raised on a farm, learned how to drive a tractor at 5. Couldn't quite work the clutch very well, and so I got yelled at a lot, learned some words I probably shouldn't have. But yeah, I was raised on a farm. We had a big garden. I love it. So I have held a number of different jobs in the industry starting out. I've been a landscape designer. I've been an irrigation designer. I even got certified as an irrigation auditor. I've done sales. So I worked for a big wholesale nursery and did sales for them for a while, which was a lot of fun. Boy, I've done landscape maintenance. So I was over crews that would go out and do landscape maintenance for, subdivisions and banks and things like that. Then I spent at least the last decade or so teaching. I was in a class, matter of fact, I don't remember how long ago, but I was sitting in a class in college, And this teacher who had just gotten out of getting his PhD in grass, and I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world. You got a PhD in grass? But he was trying to teach me about arboriculture, which I knew more about arboriculture than he did, and I just sat there and going, you know, I could teach his class better than he could. And that just, all of a sudden a light went off in my head. I had never thought about teaching before, but that's when I thought, oh, I need to get my master's degree so I can teach. And then I absolutely love teaching. So I worked at a college for a while. Actually, I was working at 2 different colleges in Portland, Oregon, where I was teaching horticulture to students. And I'm a board certified master arborist. So I know a lot about trees, and I absolutely love trees. I'm also a master beekeeper. So I love bees. Boy, if you want to start a conversation, just ask me something about bees, and we will be talking, and I can blow your mind with fascinating facts about bees. I'm also a collector of honey. So I have 75 different kinds of monofloral honey, and we can do honey tastings that will also open your eyes in ways you've never imagined. So I really am passionate about horticulture. I love growing plants. I love being outside. I am happy to be here in Texas and on the wet side of Texas. I came from Arizona. So I was at University of Arizona for a few years doing the same job, but in the desert. I am not a desert person. I found that out. They've had 2 record-breaking, and not in good ways, for heat and dryness in Arizona in the low desert the last 2 years, and that was it for me. We gotta go. So I'm glad to be here where it's nice and green and we have water. You know, I like water falling from the sky. It's nice. So yes, I am glad to get to know all of you. One thing I do want to start with all of you, and I will ask you this as I get to know you, because I really do want to get to know all of you. I am going to come around. If there's project leaders, are there any project leaders here today? I am going to come around and meet you at each of your projects that you lead, because I want to know the projects we're doing and get to know what we're doing there. But each and every one of you are educators, okay? We're not a garden club, we're educators. That's why we exist. So I want each of you to think about and develop your superpowers. All right, whatever you're interested in, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you like in horticulture related, gardening related, develop that interest into your superpower. And then you're going to go out and teach about it. All right? That's what we do. And I want all of you to be excited, enthusiastic, incredibly successful, not just with Basil, which I love Basil. I love this presentation. This was awesome because I love basil. I have pesto in my fridge at all times. So yes, I'm surprised you didn't say anything about just fresh baked sourdough, because that's my favorite way. I bake bread and I slather pesto on it. But each of you, I want you to have a superpower. Some of you may have more than one. That's okay. But we are going to be awesome together as we go out then and educate, because how many people are we supposed to reach? Who are we supposed to reach? Who is our client? Who are we responsible to? Everybody in Dallas. How many people do we have in Dallas? 2.8 million people. The commissioners have already told me. Okay? I cannot teach. I cannot reach, I cannot impact 2.8 million people by myself. So that's where you come in. All right, you are my helpers. And so if I can help you develop your superpowers and your super talents and your super enthusiasm, that's what I'm here to do, is to help you become your very best and then go out there and share it. So that's what we're going to try to do together. And there are other things I do. I don't get to just be a master gardener all the time. there's a lot of other responsibilities that I have, but you guys don't need to know about that. But come to me. I have an email, really simple. It's my name. So it's just ann.lesen@ag.tamu.edu. But you can email me, and I am very good at responding back. Or I am going to have my office out at RB1. So you can come see me there at RB1. I plan to be out there a lot if I'm not driving all over but I run out to residents' houses, and I will help them with their issues right there at their house if I can't fix it over the phone or over pictures or something like that. So I will be there, and you are welcome to stop by and say hello, and I want to get to know all of you. So thank you for having me here today. This was fun, and please feel free to come up and talk to me.
Thank you so much, Ann. Real quickly, I'm going to get through some housekeeping stuff here. So, the screens are going to be up there. If this is something, if there's anything in here that you're interested in, please take a picture so that you can think about helping out with these things. We have 6 immediate needs. We need a veggie garden lead at Raincatcher's Garden. We need an orchard lead for Raincatcher's Garden. We need 2 volunteer coordinators for TDG. We need a lead for the bathhouse pollinator garden. We need consultant leaders for our consulting team. To do that, you must have completed some AgriLife advanced training course. We also need assistants who can help with the consulting team. And anyone in this room, anybody who's certified MG and is interested can help out with those. I'm sorry?
Number 3, what does that entail?
Number 3. So we have a couple of people right now that keep track of who the volunteers are that come there regularly, and they let them know what days they're working, what things they're going to be doing in the garden, and then they show up in the garden to sort of help people get situated and started and doing the work that's actually there. So in almost all these cases, there are leaders in place today. Those leaders are asking to get an opportunity to do something different, to migrate to a different garden or to a different responsibility there. So it's not like you won't have someone who can teach you what it is you need to do. So if you're interested at all, come see me afterwards. I will make sure to get your name and contact information so I can get you in contact with the right person to talk to about some of these fantastic opportunities. Upcoming presentations talking about educating the county. Just so you guys know, in case you want to attend any of these, we've got integrated pest management, to be or not to be, basics of composting, planting a fall garden, and I won't pronounce this one correct, so I'm going to try. Florography, the language of flowers, shady herbs for shady places, and what good are bugs. And all those presentations are going to be happening around the city and the county within the next few weeks. We also have some events coming up. Urban County Farm Expo continues. It's primarily on Wednesdays and Thursdays through June 25th. However, the next couple of weeks, I think we have some Tuesdays mixed in there as well. But look it up, contact Adriana and find out the details of where that is if you want to work there. Wednesday, May 21st, we have a Taste of the Gardens going on at Metro Press Services in Carrollton. And then on June 6th, really a big deal. We have so many volunteers from our organization as well as many others that go out to the Impact Day at Fowler, at the Juliet Fowler communities. Also, Texas Master Gardeners are hosting the International Master Gardener Exposition. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's a virtual experience. It's on Zoom. Tons and tons of wonderful speakers. You can see that they're pictured here. There's an early bird registration, prior to the one we mentioned today. If you register by June 21st, there's a discounted rate of $185 for general admission and $160 for those of us who are Texas Master Gardeners. So you can save some money, see some great presentations, and it's over I think a 2-day experience basically, and you pick and choose the things that you're most interested in attending there. Next, I mentioned earlier that to be on the consultation team as a consultation leader, I can't say that word, sorry, consultation leader, having some advanced training is necessary. And I run into gardeners all the time who say, I went to training, what does that mean, advanced training? So, real quickly, what is advanced training? It's some additional training that is to equip Extension Master Gardeners with specialized knowledge, getting your superpower, if you will, and to enhance county educational programs with Texas AgriLife Extension Service. Advanced training is intended for public education purposes, not personal use, so if you're doing it just to start a new business, that's not really the intent. We want you to educate with it. Here are some of the current topics that are taught, and I'm not going to go through this, but you can see if you're interested in something, there's probably something there that you are interested in learning more about. Guidelines is not to create experts, but to get you in a better position to be able to speak to the public and master the knowledge and skills, and also have lots of contacts around the state who can help you find answers to other questions. Basic requirements, you must be an Extension Master Gardener, certified Master Gardener, and you will need to have Ann's approval. And typically each county is allowed to send 2 people up to the maximum number of people in the courses. That sounds great, except who's a Texas historian can tell me how many counties there are in Texas?
200 something.
Okay, multiply that times 2. They don't have that many positions open in the classes, so act quickly. Get the Texas Master Gardener Association website, get to that page that shows the schedule of when those are, and once a week go and hit that link and refresh and see if what you're wanting is out there. Training and volunteer requirements. After you go through the class, you need to do 16 hours of training within the first year. After that, training the public on the things that you learned in that class. That can be classroom sessions, fieldwork, mentoring, or independent study. And it must include that. And then you need to spend 20 hours educating others on some of the things you learned. Here's some of the classes coming up. As I said, they fill quickly. Plant propagation was last week, and we had a couple of people attend that one. Amy Monroe, and it was supposed to be Barry Bloom, but Barry came down with something, so he couldn't go, and Mark Jones went in his stead, so 2 new people just completed that. Earth Coming is coming up, and it's just in Collin County, just up the road. Herbs, again, that class is full, and but it will be scheduled again. And also, Dallas County is now going to be hosting one on turf grass in September 4th and 5th. And apologies to those of you who are turf grass lovers, that wouldn't probably have been my best choice for us, but we needed it to show that we were part of it, and we were going to host something, and there's a huge need in Texas for people to know about turf grass, so we're going to host that here in this site, so be paying attention, listen up, and there will be opportunities to help in many different ways with that. After you're done, you need to report those volunteer hours to the extension agent so that you can finish up and get your certification as an advanced trainer. In Dallas County, as I said earlier, also doing an advanced training of any sort, doesn't matter if you do propagation, gardening, trees, whatever it is, then you are eligible to be a lead on the consultation team, and we're in desperate need. We have several consultations that we are unable to fill right now just because we don't have enough people to lead those consultations. So get through advanced training, get certified, join month, we're going to have a little bit of talk about what is the consultation team and what do they do. So you'll have a better idea if that's something you're interested in helping out with. Next month, meeting is on June 26th. It's a Thursday, 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. or whenever we get done, as soon as we can get done. It's at the Museum of Biblical Art on Park Lane. And the speaker is going to be Jan Weir, one of our own master gardeners, who works quite a bit, volunteers quite a bit at that garden there, and can tell us more about that. So should you want to. Thank you so much to Texas Agri-Life for giving us this wonderful place to have our meetings from time to time. Thank you, Dorothy, so much for always being here and helping us with audio visual and so forth. And Janet, wherever you are, thank you so much for arranging